Hi, I'm Vicki Hoth from Handi Quilter, and joining me today is Eldredge, one of my studio educators, and we are in the studio. This is where we work all day long, and so we are here to show you how to create an edge-to-edge quilt or an edge-to-edge design across your quilt and advance it and line it up so that it doesn't stitch over itself or it works
right
correct.
All right. Advance, how to do the advance.
How to do the advance. But in the meantime, along with that, we're going to show you how to do some wrapping. So we're kind of an all-inclusive video here so that we can, help you with your edge-to-edge quilting. So the first thing we want to do is we want to bring in a design. So we go to Design and File and Open. And we want to find our designs where we'll actually do the HQ designs in continuous line. So one of the designs that I think that would be good to help with this on wrapping and all that we're doing would be something that has a design that will interlock. And so we want to choose, I think I'm just going to choose that stipple too.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
So we're going to double tap on that. And this design comes in at 4.62 wide by 4 inches. And I actually want this to be bigger. And I could go resize this right now, or I could we can create the area and let the machine resize this. So the next thing we want to do is create the area. How'd you like to create our area?
All right. I'm just going to move the machine to the top left corner.
And you're going to put it right at the point of that stitching I see.
Okay.
For this
purpose, all right?
You could stitch off. You could place it like an inch off on both sides, which I usually do. And I see you've got the glide foot on there, which is going to help as we stitch off the side. We're not going to have issues. So
okay,
you're right at the corner?
Yep, we're right at the corner. So I'm going to go to Area and to Corner. And then let's just move this across.
Okay, I'll move it all the way over, and we've measured this quilt, and this quilt is about 60 inches wide or long. And so I'm going to go ahead and press the to corner again, and that's finding my width. I'll put that on there. That's finding my width. My width of this is 40 inches. So 60 inches, and I can't bring the machine down to measure, so I'm just going to go ahead and type in the area height of 60. And now when I refresh the screen, you can see that it's a big quilt with a little design.
Yeah.
And I would like my design to be maybe 8 inches because I'm going to do loose stippling.
Yep, we want to get this done. All right.
But so to go now, take the design. We need to fill it in or do the repeat. Repeat, and Marie, go ahead and fill that thing up.
First, we'll just start with fit, and that will put as many as will fit at that size in our design.
Which is 4 inches, and I don't want 4, so it says there's 15 repeats vertically down. So I'm going to actually go and put maybe 9, and so it's going to stretch that when we do our stretch width, which I'll do that now. So it's stretched that. The next thing we need to do is our point to point, because you can see that they weren't snapping together. Now that's going to be really tight this way.
Yeah,
so
I want to take off a few.
Okay,
right?
You're going to take off, and so because we've stretched to the boundaries with our stretch width and stretch height, it's sticking there. It's like a magnet. Yeah, I like that.
5. Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing I see is that there's too much space between. So I'm going to go ahead and with my distance, my vertical distance, I'm going to do a negative number so that will go up into the negative space. So as I press that, and I'm going to press the follow and zoom in on that. So when I press the follow, and the zoom comes on with it, and wherever my crosshair is and I zoom, it zooms with where that crosshair is. It follows my zoom, and you can see that. All right, that's too much space between.
Too much space.
So we want to go ahead and press that negative button, and I could type in a number, but at this point I'm just going to type that in, and you can see that grow bigger. And you tell me when to quit.
looks pretty good.
That does. It looks like it matches all the way with the design. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the follow and refresh this again. And that looks good.
Yep.
Except I see some gaps at the top and the gaps on the side. So it's your turn to work this.
We'll go to wrapping, and what do you think? Let's just do an arrow.
Okay, you're doing the row or the window?
I want to do the window.
Because
so
we're
the
working.
Whole box.
All right. So just a directional arrow.
Go that way, and then on the side for the window, not the column, I'll just.
So do a half. Do a half, the half button on here.
All right. There we go.
So that did half of a roll. So that it filled the top, filled the bottom, and we have half on top and bottom, which is nice. So we get a little bit.
Yeah.
So that first row, we probably won't even have to advance to get the second. So I like that. But I see a lot of green and red dots.
Jumps.
What are you going to do about that?
So we'll just close that so it'll do a straight around the outside.
Okay.
We'll still have a few.
Now, I
jumps.
notice I'm just going to move that arrow, that directional arrow, and see if we can eliminate that. Sometimes that doesn't eliminate, and so that may be just a little jump there, which is
How about that way, just a little, see if we can eliminate any of those.
Okay. Just with those directional arrows. Oh,
yes.
That looks good. Okay, I think it's time to quilt.
Well, we have to baseline.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so.
Was that a test?
You did a great job. You passed it.
All right, we'll just baseline this.
All right, why do you baseline?
I want to make it so the jumps will stay, so that when I want to jump, it's gone to one design, so I don't have any problem with those jumps working.
As it comes from row to row.
From row to row.
Okay, are we ready to quilt now?
Okay, we can go now.
Probably we ought to check our settings to make sure what our settings are before we go on. And so we do have our auto jump set at 6. And so that top row does have a jump. And so it will automatically jump across without us having to worry about that. I think I'll leave it at that. Stitches per inch, we have it 13. How about we move that down maybe to 11?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I'm
Our
going to touch
tie.
a button. Tie off. Oh, we better.
We should have a tie off on the start and the end. And I like the micro tie off.
I do too.
Okay.
All right, and a pull up. Oh.
We want to do the pull up, and we could either do the pull up on or the pull up auto. So let's go ahead and do the pull up auto for this one. Okay.
Okay. All right. No pause delay. So.
Let's check that. I want that off.
Yeah.
Because we're outside the batting, so we don't need to worry about dodging the machine as it stitches. All right, I think we're ready to go.
All right.
Push that
Push
button,
the button.
the quilt.
Should we move it sort of over
You know,
there? The machine knows where to go. But
Yeah, so if I left the machine right over here, it would totally go there. But when you have seams in your fabric, it's kind of nice to just get it over there. With the glide foot, it's gonna slide. But it's nice to kind of just put it in the vicinity. All right.
And then we'll just go to quilt and run and proceed. We checked our
So it's gonna
settings
move right
already.
over to the start point, take our pull up, and it's gonna move aside because we had that automatic pull up on. And resume, we're ready to go. It's gonna go ahead and start stitching.
Well, you know what, I think we're on fast for our speed.
Oh, and we definitely want to change our speed to
Let's just go medium.
medium speed. Yeah, when we start quilting, you always want to start at least at a medium speed. And there are no points in this, so it's not going to distort it, but medium speed is good to start with. So these are our jumps that it's going. And we're just going to let this stitch out that first row. We could speed that up just a little bit now that we're going. with the glide foot on, it's nice to feel a little comfort because there's, you know, the batting here. You don't want it to catch that batting in your foot and create issues, so it's nice to have that.
And I probably would have gone up into this batting a little bit.
Yeah, that did come down a little bit because of the crop. Okay, now I think we ran out of bobbin thread, which is we need to press the pause and we need to fill up a new bobbin. So, and then we'll just go back and find our new spot. So
All
you
right,
ready to do that?
Here we go.
And I'll find a new bobbin.
Oh, now we get to demonstrate how to do a new start end.
So normally you would always check your bobbin to make sure you have a full bobbin, but we want to make sure you know how to do this. So we kind of staged this.
What?
Oh, okay, so we didn't. But you know, if your thread broke, you'd still have to figure this out. So we've replaced our bobbin, and now we need to, because it stitched past that before it stopped a little bit.
Right, it went clear down to here.
So you go ahead and show us what to do.
We're going to go to quilt and new start end. And I have
Let's turn off your needle check there.
Okay, I've positioned the needle right where I ran out of thread. I'm back about 2 stitches maybe. And I'm just going to press start auto, and that activates it, and then I'm going to press it again so that it stays there.
So when you did that, I noticed on the screen that there's an orange circle, and that's the resume of where it stopped. But what you need is the green circle to go to where your crosshair is, which represents where your needle is on the fabric, right?
Right, so I'm going to cancel what's already going on here, so that I can just press run and it will start right where I...
Okay, and it'll leave that green bullet right there at your beginning. Okay.
Right.
Marie has a different way of doing it than I do. So you press the cancel and then it puts you back to the run where your green bullet is. I would have pressed the tie off to activate that and the pull up, and it would have done it right there. So that's 2 different ways of doing it. Neither one is wrong, neither one is, you know, it's however you like to do it.
Okay.
So this is the way you do it, and I would have done it the other way, and then it would have resumed. It doesn't matter because we can both quilt.
All right.
All right, let's go.
All right.
So you go ahead and press run again, and it's going to start as if it was starting the design, but it's in a new location. So it did your pull up.
Moved aside.
And then we'll resume. It'll do a tie off. So it'll tie off and lock in those last 2 stitches from the previous stitching, because that's where your resume was going to. And you won't even know that there was a thread break. Now you may on this because of this cream fabric, but we're doing this so you can really see the design. All right, it's good to go. So we're going to just go ahead. We're going to let this stitch out all the way to the right side, and then we'll do an advance of the fabric. All right, we've finished our row. Let's go ahead, and when it finishes, it actually just disables the motors, so then I can move my machine aside. And
you just loosened that thread so it wouldn't pull?
I did, and I will clip that thread there. And then we need to advance the fabric and the pattern
at the same time.
at the same time so that they stay together. So to do that, we want to before we disable our motor or anything, we want to go connect them together. So I'm just going to bring it over here and drop it down in a stitching just right there. Does that work?
Yeah.
Drop it down. So what I've done is I've attached my needle to the fabric. Now the crosshair needs to attach to the design. So to do that, we need to press the drag button. So now they're attached, both of them, as we advance them. Because we may have just barely enough space to do another row, but I don't want to chance that. I could have checked, I want to advance. Now that we've attached, now we can let go of our side clamps here and advance. So to advance, I actually like to give it a little bit of I'll raise both of my ratchets, and I like to give it a little coaxing here. Okay, so I'll kind of give it, take the slack off.
Yeah, relax it.
Just relax it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and advance the take-up lever, but I'm leaving that ratchet down because that's where we're advancing to. Oh, you're doing that for me. Thank you.
That's okay. I'm used
All right, so I'm advancing that, and okay, so I think that you've advanced it too far because I have this point here, right? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and release that, and we'll pull this back a little bit.
All right.
Because I've done that before, and it's
Yeah,
not pretty
yeah,
because it hits the bar. Now we're going to straighten everything out, and we're going to put our side clamps back on. And since this is a small area here, we're just using some twill tape and pinning that on so that our clamps don't hit against the machine as it goes there. Okay, that's stable. Check our batting. Put our ratchet down. And one thing that I like to do to check the batting is I will actually lift this pole and check underneath there, and then lower that back down and tension that up. So just making sure that everything is right. Your side's good, my side's good.
Yep, we're good.
The next thing I want to do is check that needle. Make sure, because if it's pulling, then that's not sitting right with the design. But that looks good. No pull of the fabric one way or the other, right?
Right.
And that's important because if I dropped that and it had a pull of the fabric, then it would drop the design too far that way or too far that way. So I want to make sure that that's set. That is so important to line that up, okay? Ready?
All right. All right, moving on.
Drop it.
All right, here we go. Drop.
So it let go of the design on the screen, so the crosshair no longer has a hold of it. Now we need to let go of the fabric. And how do we do that?
Just raise the needle.
Raise the needle and it's good to go. Now what do? Do we just start stitching?
Well, I want my start point in the right place.
Okay,
So.
but before maybe the start point, I want to see if everything lined up, because when you advance fabric, there can be twisting a little bit or distortion. And I want to make sure that that design there is lined up here.
Okay.
So to do that, I'm actually going to go up here, and you can see that it advanced itself up out of the pink box a little bit, didn't it? Which is what it should do.
Right.
It should just go up. So I'm going to press the follow button, and I want to zoom in on those crosshairs. And so by pressing the follow button, it will zoom in and it will follow that zoom. So all I have to do is run my finger up the screen, and I can see now, as I move this aside across here, this is what has stitched, right?
So you can line up with what's on screen, the crosshairs, with what's already stitched on your fabric.
So that's what's stitched on the screen, and you can see that that's where it is, and it advanced on that side. I want to check all the way across, and that lined up. I want to check over here, and that lined up right where it should be. See, it's following it.
Yeah, stays right
And
where your
on my
crosshairs
last
are.
one.
Yeah.
Now, if it didn't line up, that one looks like it might be a little low. So if I'm concerned about that, I can shift my fabric. And one of the ways I can shift my fabric is to take some quilt batting, and I can actually shift. So I've got my crosshair where it should be on the screen, and I'm going to look here and say, that went a little too high. So my next design may stitch over it, my next row. So I'm going to actually shift, and I can shift this down by just pressing the fabric here. Or I could press and do the same thing up along here and shift the fabric, because I don't want to shift the design maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go to reposition and do a nudge, but I can actually just adjust my fabric and see how that adjusts
But
there.
this side was right. So.
And this side wasn't. So it
That's maybe
advanced just a little, and that's a normal thing, a very normal thing. It advances a lot of times one side just a little off. It's usually not, what, less than 1/4 of an inch or that, but enough sometimes that it could create an issue. So I'm happy with that. I might put that right there. Okay, good to go. And that wasn't much tugging there to do that.
No, because it was just a small.
Now you said, so let's go ahead and press follow and refresh. And where's my start point?
Well, your start point is back where my thread broke.
And
so I wanted it the first of the row. So I'm going to go to quilt and new start end, and I'm just going to use the jump.
That forward arrow.
And I can see that it's just going across the top to where those
So it's jumping.
little jumps were. Now it's jumped down to the row I wanted on. And I'm still going to check, because there's my start point. And if it starts stitching there, then is it going to, I'll use follow and zoom in there again.
And it's right where it should be.
And I can see that when I quilt that up there, it's just going to tuck right in there.
So you can follow or zoom in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's great.
So starting here is good. The machine knows where to go. And
So you checked the row you're going to stitch now to make sure, which I checked the previous row and to see if it was lined up. So can I bring the machine back over here?
and check the row that we're going to quilt.
Let's all the way across here, and let's check that row, like right there. Let's bring our crosshair up, and
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Because of that small, you know, that maybe that little adjustment that I had to make, it is going to stitch and be great. Not even stitch over that. Oh, yes, we're ready to go. Okay, so
All
I'll just give it back to you, and it's time to start quilting.
All right. So we can just press resume and it will just continue quilting, and because this is out in the
So it's not going to do a tie off and a pull up
Right.
on this resume. If you want to tie off and a pull up, then you need to press the cancel. Your green bullet will stay where it is, and then you just go ahead and go to quilt and run, and then it will do your tie off or your pull up and your tie off. But if you do it while it's in the run mode, then it will just go over and start stitching.
right. So I just pulled up my thread. I'm okay with that.
So if you know that, then you just pulled up your thread and you're good to go.
I'm going faster.
Okay.
All right. So
All
I'm
right.
just going to press resume, and there we go.
And because we cropped off a little off that side, it did a little crop there. And now it's going to go ahead and start stitching. Crop up there a little bit, but it's going to just nest up inside of that previous row.
And I already have this much stitched down. Once you've done that drag and drop, that's when you could do your
That's
edges.
right. You did have enough there, but we probably should have gone down there and stitched more of that after you dropped it.
After you drop it. That's
Drop
when
it
you-
and place your side clamps on. Well, no, your side clamps are on first, and then you drop it, and then you stitch your sides. Got to get this in the right order. You see how nice that's nesting up in there? All right.
All right, that's it.
I hope
That's
this
all
works
there is
for
to
you.
it. Yeah.
Enjoy your quilting.